All right, so welcome to video number 3. Now, this one here, I'm going to call out the cops first. Because why not? Now, when this all first started, like I said, so it all started with eye contact with that black-haired guy in the brown Nova that was bringing it from the back of the shop to the front. I don't believe that car belongs to him, though. I think he was just moving it. I think they did some work in the back, and he just happened to be the one moving it to the front of the lot. So, with that being said, and we're going to get to that brown Nova because that brown Nova plays a pretty decent part into what's going on. So, after I went to the cop shop the first time, um, and then got the prank call after that night, I was on the phone with somebody. I was talking to somebody about all this, and this black-haired one, I believe, was coming out of the shop in a little blue car, and he heard me say that what they were doing to me was borderline criminal. And I was saying that it can come with some jail time and some fines and whatnot. And he took off like a bat out of hell. He gave me the dirtiest freaking look and took off like a bat out of hell. Next thing I know, all these black-haired men are floating around. And there was a black-haired guy, an older man, could have been his dad or an uncle, drives a black truck with silver trim around the window frame. And that one called me a whore out in the street. And did it a few times, actually. Calling me names and whatnot while I was on my bike in traffic. And that same truck, the black one with silver trim, also followed me out to the park when I was taking my bike out to the park. And I used to take the long path, and it would go all the way out to the Ball Diamond. And sometimes I would sit and have some tokes and whatnot with the dude out there, and then, ride my bike home. And this one day I just happened to be going out, and I turned around to come back, and there's that black truck sitting there. Except this time it's a silver-haired man, silver white-haired man, um, sitting there, already waiting for me. Already knew I was going to be at that spot. So I thought nothing of it. And again, this is kind of where it all starts piecing together, because I start noticing these vehicles and these same men from that shop. So I want to stick to the ones with the black hair, because I do believe that's the cops that are in this situation. Now, after that first time, and he took off like a bat out of hell, giving me the dirty looks, because he knew what he was already doing. Because it was his family pulling all this shit at first. So I already know all those black-haired men have to do with that one. And like I said, I don't know if that's a mechanic turned cop or if he's got family on the cops. And that's why I ended up with the black-haired cop the second time I went back, and that's why he laughed in my face. Because everybody that I had described on those forms, or the papers that I had took in, of all the times I've been watched and followed and everything else, all on, written out. That's why that black-haired cop laughed in my face. Because he's family to all these other black-haired men. And that one from that shop. Now, here's the kicker. When I landed here in Vancouver, like I said, the black-haired men. And I do think it's these cops that were following me around. Now, I don't know if it's the same cop or if it's a brother or whatnot, because it almost seems like there's a shorter one, and then there's one that's a little bit taller. But they all do this. They all do this. Now, When I moved into my house on Pender Street, when we moved out of the Airbnb, um, we ended up living with some Mexicans. And that cop showed up in front of my house in a white van, like a family style van. And he was sitting there like this. Now, there's also a cop that's come out here quite a few times, pulled his little games, sat and flashed his lights in my face. The other day, actually, he came out and sat crooked in the traffic in the parking spot, waiting for me to come up the street. And he was sitting there like this. And there's also another guy with silver hair that showed up here a couple weeks back. Now, he's an older man because he looks just like them, except he has silver hair. Silver, white hair, short. And there's quite a few of those men that have followed me around. And the one that showed up here drives a really small, I don't know if it's electric or, but it's just a little small car. Like he's literally it's just a little car. And I think it was like a tan or like a tanny green color. And he stopped, and I looked over. I was standing like this. I had my phone on, I had my hood on, and he pulled up like right on the side of me on the street. And I just happened to look over, and there's this guy sitting like this, looking at me. See, this family of men do this. And that's how that's why you need to pay attention. Because it's things like this that put information together. Now we have the black haired one from the shop. We've got the black haired one that showed up in front of my house here on Pender, sat and stared at me like this. There is the other cop that shows up here. And I do think there's I think there's two of them. And I do think one's a little shorter than the other. But, yeah. And then the one that pulled up out here. So I think that's like an uncle or their dad, maybe. But yeah, they all do this. So black hair, 5'7", 5'8", 5'9" ish, thin, don't wear glasses, short black hair. The older ones have the short silver white hair. Yeah. And I think he's the one that started all this. I really do. I don't believe the one that was playing googly eyes with me. I don't believe he's the one that started it. I don't. I don't. I think he's completely free of this. And I thought at the beginning it was him because we did play googly eyes for so long. And I thought, what the fuck? You know what I mean? But I don't. I think this goes back to the very beginning when I made the eye contact with that one with the black hair. I think that's where it all started. And he heard me say about a borderline criminal. Now, if you have cops on the force, you don't have to worry about any of that. That's why that cop laughed in my face. That's why he felt so free to laugh in my face when I went in. Because he's family. They're all family. The one from the shop that heard me say that, the one at the cop shop, and where there was I was just going to say something else. The one that came here, the one that sat at my house on Pender Street, and I do think they have followed me around outside of their street clothes too. I think he's the one that wears the big ass watch. And there's also the big guy that drove the white car, the white soccer mom car, that followed me for 6 months straight. I think he's a family to that one. And I'm going to tell you where he comes in, because he actually shook hands with another guy. That's another one. We're going to have to get into that one too. So we're going to get to the curly haired one, because curly haired guy that I was googly eyes with, I believe he has a partner, red hair, couple kids. And he's the one that was passing on all the information and why some of this stuff happened. So I'm going to end this one here, and I'm going to pick it up in the next one with the one with the curly hair, because that's guy number 2. So I'll see you there.